The lecture hall fell silent as Professor Venn'thor activated the holographic display. 23 students from across the Galactic Confederation leaned forward in their seats, antennae twitching, eyes widening, scales shimmering with anticipation. Today, the professor began. His voice carrying that particular tone educators use when they know they're about to blow some minds. We examine the species that should not exist. The ones who turned their own planet into a training ground for survival. Human. A collective rustle swept through the room. Everyone had heard rumors about Earth, the death world, the nightmare sphere spinning through space where literally everything tried to kill you. Krisha, a Veltronian with 6 eyes and entirely too much confidence for someone about to have their worldview shattered, raised one of her forearms. Professor, with respect, we've studied countless species. What makes these primates so special? They lack natural armor. Their claws are pathetic. They can't even regenerate limbs. Professor Venn'thor's mandibles clicked together in what might have been amusement. An excellent question. Let me answer it with a visual. The hologram flickered to life, displaying Earth in all its terrifying blue and green glory. Beautiful. Really. Deadly. Absolute. Behold, Venn'thor said with theatrical flair. A planet where the weather has moods, where the ground occasionally decides to shake itself apart, where the oceans rise up and swallow cities, where the very air spins into columns of pure destruction they casually call tornadoes, as if giving them a friendly name makes them less horrifying. A student named Plexor, whose species had evolved in the calm stability of Andros Prime, made a choking sound. They name the death spirals? Oh, they name everything that tries to kill them, Venn'thor continued, warming to his subject. Hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis. They have an entire vocabulary dedicated to planetary violence. Now, class, pop quiz. When a civilization faces an environment this hostile, what do they typically do? Develop advanced technology to escape, suggested Mira, a tentacled Aquan from the peaceful water moons of Sector 7. Die out? Offered another student helpfully. Adapt and become incredibly dangerous? This from Grix, a reptilian Scarian who was starting to see where this was going. Ding ding ding. Then Tor's translator rendered his expression of delight. Grix wins today's prize of existential dread. Let's examine how humans adapted, shall we? The hologram shifted, displaying a primitive human standing on an African plain. Scrawny thing, no fur to speak of. Looked like it would lose a fight with a strong breeze. This is early humanity. About 2 million years ago, give or take. Notice anything special? No, exactly. They were prey animals. Everything wanted to eat them. Big cats, bigger birds, their own planet's megafauna. Which, by the way, makes our modern apex predators look like pets. So how did they survive? Krisha asked, genuinely curious now. They cheated. Venn'thor pulled up another image. They discovered persistence hunting. You see, humans can't run fast, but they can run forever. They would literally chase their prey until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Sometimes for 8, 10, 12 hours, just jogging along behind it while the creature ran itself to death. The class sat in stunned silence. That's insane, Mira whispered. What kind of predator exhausts its prey to death? A terrifying one, Venn'thor agreed cheerfully. But wait, there's more. They also discovered throwing. Humans have this unique shoulder structure that lets them hurl projectiles with devastating accuracy and force. No other species on Earth could do this. They could kill from a distance. They could injure massive animals and then, you guessed it, jog after them until they bled out. Plexor raised a trembling appendage. Please tell me they stopped being scary once they developed a civilization. Oh, my sweet summer student, Venn'thor said, his voice dripping with what the translator rendered as dark amusement. They got worse. So much worse. Let me tell you about human warfare. The hologram shifted again, this time displaying a montage of human history. Images flickered past battles, weapons, strategies that made the assembled aliens collectively lean back in their seats. Humans have been fighting each other for their entire existence. Not occasionally, mind you. Constantly. There has not been a single year, not one, where humans somewhere weren't fighting other humans somewhere else. They invented warfare the way we invented mathematics, as a fundamental tool for existence. That's impossible, Krisha protested. The resource drain alone would devastate their civilization. You'd think so, Venn'thor agreed. But here's the thing about humans. Warfare drove their innovation. Every major technological leap they made was because they were trying to kill each other better. Medicine? Advanced because they needed to keep soldiers alive. Metallurgy, better weapons and armor. Chemistry? Initially for explosives. Nuclear technology? Well, he didn't need to finish that sentence. Everyone in the Confederation knew about nuclear weapons. Most species discovered them, ran the math, and collectively decided never to build them. Humans built thousands. Let me show you something special. Venn'thor continued, pulling up a new file. This is from their Second World War, a conflict so massive it consumed their entire planet. 50 to 85 million dead. That's not a typo. Million. In 6 years, the numbers appeared on the hologram. The students stared in horror. During this war, one human soldier, a Finnish man named Simo Heiha, killed over 500 enemy soldiers, alone, with a rifle and no telescopic sight, because he thought the glint might give away his position. They called him the White Death. He was shot in the face, lost half his jaw, and lived to be 96 years old. One human? Greeks' voice cracked. One human eliminated 500 others? Oh, that's just one example, Venn'thor said, scrolling through files with evident enthusiasm. Here's another. Alvin York, First World War. Single-handedly killed 28 enemy soldiers and captured 132 more. His citation says he did it with a rifle and a pistol. When asked how, he said it was just like shooting turkeys back home. He compared enemy soldiers to poultry. Mira sounded faint. It gets better, Venn'thor promised. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Let me tell you about Mad Jack Churchill, who fought in World War II with a sword, a longbow, and bagpipes. Yes, bagpipes. He has confirmed kills with the bow. He once captured 42 German soldiers armed only with his sword. When asked about it, he said, and I quote, "Any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed." The class had gone very, very quiet. These are exceptional cases, Krasha said weakly. Surely most human soldiers weren't like this. You're right, Venn'thor agreed. Most were worse. Let me explain the concept of total war. When humans really commit to fighting, they mobilize their entire society. Every factory, every citizen, every resource bent toward victory. During World War II, human females entered the workforce in massive numbers because the males were all fighting. They built ships, planes, weapons. The Americans were producing one aircraft carrier every month. Every month. Do you understand the industrial capacity required for that? He pulled up production statistics. The numbers were staggering. Here's another fun fact. Venn'thor continued, his enthusiasm definitely bordering on inappropriate now. Humans developed tanks, armored vehicles that could cross trenches and destroy fortifications. Then they developed anti-tank weapons. Then they developed better tanks, then better anti-tank weapons. This cycle continued for decades, each side constantly innovating to kill the other side more effectively. Why didn't they just stop fighting? Plexor asked. Because that's not how humans work, Venn'thor explained. They fight until someone wins. Complete surrender, total victory. The concept of a negotiated stalemate is something they had to learn from us after joining the Confederation. Before that, wars ended when one side couldn't fight anymore. Greeks raised a claw. What about the Geneva Conventions? We learned about those in our diplomacy courses. Humans have rules for warfare. Oh yes. Venn'thor's mandibles clicked rapidly. They have rules. Extensive ones. No chemical weapons. No biological weapons. Treat prisoners humanely. Don't target civilians. Beautiful rules. Very civilized. Want to know why they made those rules? Why? Because at various points in their history, they did all of those things, and horrified themselves so badly they made rules to never do them again. Every rule in the Geneva Conventions exists because some human somewhere said, you know what would really mess up the enemy? And then did it. The lecture hall had gotten very cold. Or maybe that was just everyone's blood running ice. Chemical weapons. Venn'thor pulled up images that made several students look away. Used extensively in World War I. Mustard gas, chlorine gas, physgene. They choked each other to death in trenches. The survivors had permanent lung damage, so they banned it. Didn't stop them from developing nerve agents later, just in case, but they banned using them. This is a species that joined the Confederation? Mira's tentacles had curled into tight spirals. They let the humans join. Best decision we ever made, Venn'thor said seriously. Let me show you why. Fast forward to present day. The Confederation faces the Krex horde. Remember that incident? Everyone remembered. The Krex were a warrior species that had threatened 3 sectors. Traditional Confederation peacekeeping forces had struggled to contain them. The humans sent 1 battalion, 600 soldiers, against a Krex army of 30,000. Venn'thor, let that sink in. The battle lasted 4 hours. Human casualties, 17 wounded, none killed. Krek's casualties, complete surrender of all forces. How? Krisha demanded. Because humans have spent 10,000 years learning how to fight. They've forgotten more about warfare than most species ever learn. They didn't just beat the Krek, they studied them, understood them, and defeated them so thoroughly, so completely, that the Kreks asked to join the Confederation just to make sure they never had to fight humans again. The professor pulled up a final image. A human soldier standing at ease, looking remarkably ordinary. Young, maybe 20 standard years. Could have been anybody. This is Private Emma Reeves. She served in that battalion. I interviewed her for this lecture series. Want to know what she said when I asked if she was scared facing 30,000 Kreks warriors? The class waited. She said, "Not really, sir. We trained for worse." Venn'thor paused. They train for worse. That's the point. Humans are the only species that regularly simulates total war scenarios for practice. Just in case. They have academies dedicated to studying historical battles, not for nostalgia, but to learn from them. To get better at fighting. So what you're saying, Greek said slowly, is that humans are the most dangerous species in the Confederation. Oh no, Venn'thor corrected. I'm saying humans are the most dangerous species we know of, and they're on our side. Which is why Confederation policy is to keep them very, very happy. The bell chimed, signaling the end of class. Nobody moved. Next week, Professor Venn'thor announced, we'll discuss human special forces, because apparently regular human soldiers weren't terrifying enough. Class dismissed. Oh. And remember, if you see a human in the corridors, be polite. Very polite. As the students filed out, still processing what they'd learned, Krisha approached the professor. Sir, one question. You said humans are persistence hunters, that they never give up. Does that apply to everything they do? Venn'thor looked at her seriously. Everything. When humans decide they want something, they pursue it until they get it or die trying. They climbed their tallest mountain because it was there. They went to their moon because they could. They'll chase a goal for generations if necessary. It's not just hunting. It's how they exist. Krisha nodded slowly and left. Alone in the lecture hall, Professor Venn'thor allowed himself a smile. These students had no idea what was coming next week. Wait until they learned about human entertainment. The fact that humans watched wars for fun, played tactical simulations as games, and wrote countless stories about fighting was going to break a few minds. He couldn't wait. Professor Venn'thor stood at the front of the lecture hall exactly 1 week later, watching his students file in with noticeably more caution than last session. Word had spread. The humans were terrifying. Several students had actually done independent research which Venn'thor considered a personal teaching victory, even if that research had resulted in 3 cases of stress-induced molting. Krisha entered last, clutching a datapad like it might protect her. Professor, I watched human historical documentaries all week. They have something called the Mongol horde that conquered most of their largest continent. On horses, with bows and arrows. Yes, Genghis Khan, Venn'thor said cheerfully. Responsible for about 40 million deaths. 11% of the world's population at the time. His empire stretched from Korea to Hungary. But we're not covering him today. Today is somehow worse. How? Plexer wheezed, already regretting his life choices. Today we discuss what humans do for entertainment, how they train their warriors, and why the Confederation collectively decided never to anger them. Venn'thor activated the hologram with a flourish. Let's start with fun, shall we? The display showed a human boxing match. 2 humans punching each other repeatedly in the face while thousands of other humans cheered. This is boxing, Venn'thor explained. A sport for fun. They hit each other until someone can't get up anymore, or a time limit expires. It's been popular for thousands of years. They beat each other unconscious recreationally. Mira's tentacles had already started curling. Oh, that's the gentle one, Venn'thor said. Let me show you mixed martial arts. That's boxing plus wrestling plus various forms of armed and unarmed combat from different cultures, all blended together. Then there's rugby, where they chase a ball while tackling each other without protective gear. American football, which is rugby but with armor, because apparently rugby wasn't dangerous enough. Ice hockey, which is fighting on ice with sticks. The montage rolled on. Extreme skiing, base jumping, free climbing, cave diving, storm chasing. Notice a pattern? Bratha asked. Humans seek out danger. They court it. They invented activities specifically to put themselves in mortal peril. Because normal life was too boring. They jump out of perfectly functional aircraft for fun. They strap boards to their feet and slide down mountains. They climb vertical rock faces without safety equipment because, quote, it feels more real. Greeks raised a claw slowly. Professor, I have a theory. Are humans actually insane? Like clinically as a species? That's been debated. Venn'thor admitted. Current consensus is no, they're not insane. They just have a completely different risk assessment system than literally everyone else. What we perceive as suicidal they perceive as, and I'm quoting directly here, kind of fun actually. He pulled up a new image. A human child, maybe 8 standard years old, playing with other children. This is a human game called tag. One child chases the others. When caught, that child becomes the chaser. Harmless, right? Venn'thor's voice took on that tone again. Now let me show you the adult version. The hologram shifted to show soldiers in full combat gear moving through a dense forest hunting each other with simulation weapons. Military training exercises, Venn'thor continued. Humans train by fighting each other. Full scenarios, opposing forces, realistic conditions. They've been doing this for centuries. The Romans had gladiatorial schools. Medieval knights had tournaments where they actually died sometimes. Modern militaries have entire bases dedicated to simulating warfare. Wait, Krisa interrupted. They train by actually fighting, not simulations, not theoretical exercises. Oh, they do those too. Venn'thor assured her. But they also believe in muscle memory, stress inoculation, realistic scenario training. They want their soldiers comfortable in chaos. So they create chaos and throw them into it. Repeatedly, until combat becomes routine. Plexer made a strangled sound. Combat becomes routine. Exactly. Venn'thor seemed pleased. Now let's discuss special forces. These are humans selected from already elite military units for even more specialized training. The selection process alone would kill most species. He pulled up statistics that made the room go silent. Navy SEALs, American Special Forces. Their basic training has a 70 to 80% failure rate. The ones who pass are put through something called Hell Week. 5.5 days of continuous training with a maximum of 4 hours of sleep total. They run over 200 kilometers, swim, perform countless physical exercises, all while being cold, wet, and covered in sand. This is just to see if they quit. And the ones who don't quit? Mira asked weakly. They continue training for over a year, learning to operate in any environment. Water, air, land, urban, rural, Arctic, desert. They become experts in weapons, tactics, languages, demolitions, medicine. A single SEAL team of 16 soldiers can destabilize an entire region if they choose to. Venn'thor pulled up more examples. British CAs, Russian Spetsnaz, Israeli Sayeret Matkal, Australian CA Cyber. Every major human nation has these units. And here's the terrifying part. They share information. They train together. They learn from each other. The collective knowledge of human special operations forces represents 10,000 years of refined combat experience. Why are you telling us this? Grix asked. What's the point of scaring us? Because you need to understand what the Confederation gained when humans joined. Venn'thor said seriously. And what we'd face if they ever left. Let me tell you about Operation Sanctuary. The hologram shifted to show a star system on the edge of Confederation space. A colony world. Peaceful. Agricultural air inhabited by Veltronian settlers. 5 years ago, a pirate fleet attacked this colony. 300 raiders. Well-armed. Experienced. They took 2,000 colonists hostage. Demanded ransom. The Confederation prepared a response force, which would have taken 6 weeks to arrive. The humans sent one ship. One ship? Krisha leaned forward. Against 300 pirates? One ship. Venn'thor confirmed. Carrying 48 human special operations soldiers. They arrived in 4 days, inserted covertly, and spent 18 hours studying the pirate positions. Then they struck. The hologram displayed tactical readouts, heat signatures, movement patterns. It was like watching a dance, except the dancers were lethal and the stage was a combat zone. 48 humans eliminated 300 pirates in 6 hours. They rescued all 2,000 hostages with 0 colonist casualties. 3 humans were injured. None seriously. The pirate leader was captured alive and delivered to Confederation authorities with a complete intelligence dump on their entire operation. Venn'thor let that sink in. The Vorsolian governor asked the human commander how they did it. The commander, a woman named Victoria Cross, said they'd trained for exactly this scenario hundreds of times. Hostage rescue was basic stuff. Then she asked if anyone needed medical attention because her team included qualified doctors. Warrior doctors? Plexar sounded faint again. All human special forces receive advanced medical training. Venn'thor explained. They're expected to keep themselves and others alive in any situation. They're also trained in languages, cultures, diplomacy, engineering. A human special forces soldier is essentially a complete warrior scholar, capable of operating independently for extended periods. Mira raised a tentacle hesitantly. Professor, earlier you said humans have rules for warfare, the Geneva Conventions. How does special forces fit into that? Excellent question. Venn'thor pulled up a document. Humans have very specific rules of engagement. Even special forces, especially special forces, follow them. Because here's what most species don't understand about humans and rules. They follow them. Strictly. Not because they have to, but because they chose to. It's a point of honor. Honor? Grick sounded skeptical. Honor, Venn'thor repeated firmly. Humans have this concept called the warrior's code. It varies by culture, but the core is consistent. Protect the weak, fight with honor, respect worthy opponents, never harm non-combatants. They take it seriously. A human soldier who violates these codes faces punishment from their own people, often harsher than enemy retaliation. He pulled up another example. During the Second World War, a German pilot named Franz Stigler encountered a damaged American bomber limping home. He could have shot it down easily. Instead, he escorted it to safety, risking his own life to ensure the crew survived. When asked why, he said shooting them would have been murder, not combat. The American pilot Charlie Brown spent decades searching for Stigler after the war to thank him. They became close friends. The class sat quietly, processing this new information. So let me make sure I understand, Krisha said slowly. Humans are the most dangerous fighters in known space. But they also have strict moral codes they refuse to break even when it would be advantageous. Correct, Venn'thor confirmed. It's what makes them reliable allies and terrifying enemies. They fight viciously but honorably. They're creative, adaptable, relentless. But they also know when to show mercy. This combination is unique in my experience. He switched the hologram again, showing peaceful scenes. Human cities, parks, families, children playing. Here's what you need to understand, Venn'thor said softly. Everything I've shown you, all the violence, all the warfare, all the danger-seeking, that's only part of the human story. There are also artists, musicians, poets, philosophers. They create beauty alongside destruction. They value peace even as they prepare for war. How do they reconcile that? Mira asked. They have a saying, Venn'thor replied. If you want peace, prepare for war. They believe the best way to prevent conflict is to be so formidable that no one dares start one. And if conflict comes anyway, to end it as quickly and decisively as possible so peace can return. Plexer raised an appendage. What happens if someone attacks Earth? What would the human response be? Venn'thor's expression became very serious. That's classified information at the highest Confederation levels. But I can tell you this much. Earth has defense systems that make our most advanced military technology look primitive. And that's just the official system. There are rumors, unconfirmed, of contingency plans so extreme they make nuclear weapons look gentle. Such as, the humans call it mutually assured destruction. The idea that any attack on Earth would result in retaliation so severe that both sides would be destroyed. It's a deterrent based on the promise of total annihilation. No half measures, no negotiations, just complete and utter devastation. The room had gotten cold again. But here's the thing, Venn'thor continued, his voice warming slightly. In the 20 years since humans joined the Confederation, they've never once threatened another member species. They've responded to every request for aid. They've shared technology, medical advances, agricultural techniques. They've been model citizens. Why? Greeks asked. If they're this powerful, why not dominate? Because humans learned something from 10,000 years of warfare, Venn'thor explained. Domination doesn't last. Empires fall. Tyrants die. But cooperation, mutual benefit, genuine friendship between peoples, that endures. They've tried conquest multiple times throughout their history. It always ends badly. So they chose a different path. He pulled up one final image. The Confederation Assembly Hall with a human representative standing at the podium. This is Ambassador Michael Torres. Former soldier, served 15 years in human special forces. He's now one of the Confederation's most skilled diplomats. He once told me something I've never forgotten. He said, I became a soldier to protect people. I became a diplomat for the same reason. The method changed. The mission didn't. Venn'thor deactivated the hologram and faced his students directly. So what have we learned? Humans are dangerous, yes, potentially the most dangerous species we've encountered. But they're also loyal, honorable, creative, and deeply committed to protecting those they consider friends. The Confederation is stronger with them as members, much stronger. Krisha stood up slowly. Professor, one last question. If humans are this formidable, what are they afraid of? Venn'thor considered this carefully. Themselves. Mostly. They fear what they're capable of when they lose control. It's why they have so many rules, so many checks and balances. They know their own potential for destruction and it terrifies them, which paradoxically is why they're safe to be around. A species that fears its own power is less likely to abuse it. The bell chimed. This time students moved but slowly, still processing everything they'd learned over 2 lectures. As they filed out, Venn'thor called after them. Remember, if you encounter humans in the corridors, be friendly. They appreciate friendliness, and maybe don't challenge them to any competitions. They have this thing about winning that's, well, you've heard enough for today. Greeks paused at the door. Professor, do you think humans will ever go back to fighting each other? Venn'thor shook his head. I don't think so. They've seen the alternative now. They've experienced real cooperation with other species. They've found a cause worth fighting for that isn't just territory or resources. Protecting the Confederation, protecting peace. That's their mission now. And humans are very good at missions. Alone again, Venn'thor began preparing for next week's lecture. Human Culture and the Arts. After 2 weeks of discussing their capacity for violence, his students needed to see the other side. The music, the literature, the films, the incredible diversity of human creative expression. Although he thought with amusement human entertainment was often about combat too. They wrote books about wars, made movies about soldiers, created games simulating battles. Even their peaceful activities somehow circled back to competition and conflict. But that was humans for you. Complicated, contradictory, passionate, and absolutely impossible to predict. The Confederation was lucky to have them. And, Venn'thor thought as he reviewed his notes, anyone foolish enough to attack the Confederation would learn exactly why humans were called the most dangerous species in known space. He wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that lesson, not even a little bit. Outside the lecture hall, Krisha walked with Grix and Mira toward the dining facility. They moved in contemplative silence until Mira spoke up. So we're all agreed humans are terrifying but also kind of amazing? Absolutely. Krisha confirmed. Without question, Grix added. Good, Mira said. Because there's a human in my astrophysics class who asked if I wanted to study together and I've been too nervous to answer. Say yes? Krisha advised. Humans are apparently fiercely loyal to their friends. Plus I heard they're excellent teachers, and if someone bothers you, Grix added helpfully, you'll have the most dangerous species in known space watching your back. They all laughed, the tension of the past 2 lectures finally breaking. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also friends, allies, and fellow citizens of the Confederation, and that, Venn'thor would have told them, was the real lesson. Understanding the capacity for violence wasn't about fear. It was about respect, appreciation, and recognizing that strength wielded with honor was a gift, not a threat. The Confederation had gained more than warriors when humans joined. They'd gained protectors who understood the cost of war and valued peace above all, even if they did jump out of aircraft for fun and consider boxing a recreational activity. Nobody was perfect.